Welcome to today's Explainer. We're diving straight into a story today that is, well, it's absolutely captivating. I want you to step back in time with me for a second, far away from all the noise and distractions of our modern world. We're going to immerse ourselves in this deeply intense narrative about guilt, total isolation, and the desperate search for redemption. So if you can, just picture this in your mind. It's a bitterly cold evening in ancient Jerusalem. The narrow streets are getting super quiet, lit by nothing but this soft, flickering golden glow coming from a few oil lamps hanging in the doorways. As we really settle into this story, try to feel that chill in the air. Imagine those deep, long shadows stretching out across the rough stone walls, and listen to the sound of heavy wooden doors bolting shut. The whole bustling ancient city is just slowly, deliberately shutting down for the night.
So there's this gentle wind carrying the scent of dried dust through those winding stone roads. All the local merchants, they've long since packed up for the day, wrapping up their silks and spices. Everybody is slowly making their way back to the warmth and safety of their homes. It creates this really desolate, quiet atmosphere, you know? It leaves an undeniable emptiness in the streets. But here's the thing. Our focus today isn't on the grand, towering temples or the warmly lit estates of the wealthy elite. Actually, scratch that, we are looking at the exact opposite. We're zooming in on this forgotten, lonely corner of the city. And right there, sitting entirely alone in the deepest shadows, is a man who knows exactly what that emptiness feels like, mostly because he has lost absolutely everything that truly mattered. His name was Eliab.
Now, you might be wondering how he ended up there. Well, years ago, Eliab was a vastly different guy. I mean, he was known all throughout these very streets as an honest, hardworking young man with a completely open heart. His neighbors trusted him implicitly. His family loved him deeply. To put it simply, his future looked incredibly bright. It was filled with the promise of a really good, honorable life. But then, slowly, almost imperceptibly at first, this subtle poison began to creep into his life: greed. And it didn't happen overnight, right? It never does. He made just one wrong decision, a tiny compromise of his integrity, then another, and another. That greed slowly calcified his heart, completely severing his connections to everyone around him. And that brings us to his present-day reality. Just sitting in the dark, trapped in complete and utter isolation.
So how does a good man fall so far into the dark? Like we just saw, it's rarely a single moment. It's more like a slow, methodical suffocation of your own morality. For Eliab, money slowly eclipsed kindness. Raking in coins literally became a far greater priority than the well-being of the people he lived right next to. And then, power completely overshadowed truth. He started twisting his words, stepping on literally anyone he needed to just to climb a little higher. And ultimately, a cold, hard pride became vastly stronger than love. This was a fatal, devastating shift in his heart. The very things that make us human, the core virtues that actually connect us to one another, were just systematically wiped out by his blind ambition.
And sure, he gained the world he thought he wanted. He amassed tremendous wealth, unyielding power, and a seriously formidable position in society. But the cost? Wow, the cost was absolute devastation. The family that once held him dear, they wouldn't even welcome him at their dinner table anymore. His closest friends, the guys who knew him back when he was just an honest kid, vanished like smoke. In fact, his reputation became so thoroughly toxic that the people who used to greet him warmly in the marketplace now actually crossed the street. I mean, they would pull their cloaks tight just to avoid making eye contact with him. So yeah, his financial victories were entirely hollow, leaving him drowning in absolute emotional bankruptcy.
So there he is, every single night, sitting completely alone in the biting cold of that forgotten corner. Eliab is just crushed under the weight of his own choices, and he's asking himself the exact same agonizing question over and over again. Can a man like me ever be forgiven? He firmly believed, without a shadow of a doubt, that he had crossed a line from which there was absolutely no return. He was paralyzed by this deep, suffocating guilt, utterly convinced that God would never, ever accept someone whose hands were stained with so many selfish mistakes. He felt entirely beyond the reach of grace.
But then, something happens. An unexpected shift breaks that bleak silence. One morning, the desolate quiet of the city is abruptly shattered. A rumor, this sudden, fierce spark of something new and totally electric, starts spreading like wildfire through the stone streets of Jerusalem. And we're not just talking about idle gossip here. From the impoverished beggars hanging out by the gates, to the wealthy merchants, all the way to the armed guards, everyone is whispering fervently to one another. The air literally crackled with this undeniable urgency about a new teacher who was entirely unlike anyone they had ever seen before.
So, what were they whispering with such feverish intensity? The claims were staggering. No joke, some people swore they saw him heal the sick with a mere touch. Others testified that he gave this profound, unbreakable hope to people who were utterly broken. But for Eliab, who's still just listening from the shadows, one specific claim pierced right through the darkness of his soul. They said he welcomes the rejected. I mean, really think about the gravity of those words for a second. How does a phrase like that strike the heart of a man who is actively shunned by all of society? A guy whom everyone else crosses the street to avoid? That is a total game changer.
His name was Jesus, and by sunrise, the anticipation in the city had reached a fever pitch. The sheer mass of humanity was staggering. The streets were completely choked with crowds. We're talking thousands of rough sandals kicking up these thick, choking clouds of dust right into the morning light. People were literally abandoning their homes, hanging off the edges of rooftops and pressing shoulder to shoulder along the narrow, winding roads. They were desperate, absolutely hungry for just a single glimpse of him. The energy radiating through the city wasn't just your standard excitement. It was a profound, desperate kind of hope.
But amidst all that roaring chaos of the crowd, Eliab wasn't exactly getting swept up in the joy. Actually, his heart was pounding violently against his ribs. He shrank back, pressing himself deeply into those familiar, safe shadows of his corner. As he watched the teeming crowds press forward, this vicious, hissing voice echoed in his mind, the voice of his own profound shame, basically weaponizing every single mistake he had ever made against him. It whispered so coldly, "Don't go, you don't deserve another chance." And so he stood there, entirely paralyzed, anchored to the darkness by his past.
Yet, beneath that crushing, suffocating weight of his failures, a much quieter voice dared to speak. It was this terrifyingly fragile, vulnerable whisper of hope, fighting against decades of self-hatred. It dared him to look past his own ruins, quietly asking, what if mercy is greater than your past? Think about that. It was this agonizing friction between the undeniable reality of everything he had destroyed and the incredibly beautiful sliver of a second chance. For several long, agonizing moments, Eliab stood completely, perfectly still. It's almost like the noise of the thousands of people around him just faded into a dull roar, as these two voices waged a violent war in his own mind. The darkness was pulling at him, right? It was comfortable, it was familiar. The light, on the other hand, terrified him. And then, drawing a ragged breath, for the first time in so many years, he stepped out of the shadows. Just one single, monumental step toward grace. But it was a step that would change the trajectory of his entire existence and deeply move everyone who happened to witness it.
So, here's the big question. Would Jesus reject him, turning away in disgust just like the rest of the world had done for years? Or would Eliab discover, in that trembling moment, that God's mercy is fundamentally deeper than any human failing? It's a profound precipice to stand on for sure. What do you guys think? Well, thank you so much for joining me for this explainer. I really hope this powerful narrative leaves you reflecting on the undeniable weight of our own pasts, the truly expansive nature of grace, and the immense, terrifying courage it takes to simply take one step out of the shadows.